Sturmabteilung, short SA or Storm Division, was the original paramilitary force of the Nazi Party, playing a crucial role in Hitler's rise by protecting rallies, disrupting opponents, and engaging in street battles with rival groups like the Communist Roter Frontkämpferbund and the Reichsbanner Schwarz-Rot-Gold of the Social Democrats. Its members, known as Brown Shirts, were initially a ragtag mix of ex-soldiers, unemployed men, and working-class radicals. The SA's origins trace back to World War I stormtroopers who used infiltration tactics in small squads, a method the Nazis co-opted for political street fighting. After Hitler took control of the Nazi Party, the SA grew into a massive force, eventually reaching 3 million members by 1933. Its then leader, Ernst Röhm, had grand ambitions. He wanted to absorb the German army into the SA, creating a revolutionary people's army. This alarmed both the military and Hitler's inner circle, as it threatened Hitler's alliance with the Reichswehr and challenged the authority of the Nazi leadership. The SA also had ideological differences with the rising SS. While the SS was made up of middle-class men who embraced rigid discipline, the SA was more radical and rebellious, with many of its members believing the Nazi revolution was unfinished. By 1934, Röhm's growing power and the SA's unchecked influence became intolerable to Hitler. Pressured by Himmler, Göring and Goebbels, Hitler decided to act. The secret state police Gestapo and security service provided intelligence that Röhm was planning a coup, and in June 1934, the Night of the Long Knives saw Röhm and over 100 SA leaders executed. Although the SA remained in existence until the fall of Nazi Germany, it never regained its former dominance. The Schutzstaffel, short SS or Protection Squad, started as a small security unit for Nazi meetings but evolved into one of the most powerful organizations in Nazi Germany. Originally just Hitler's personal bodyguard, the SS expanded under Heinrich Himmler into an elite force, pushing Nazi ideology, racial policies, and brutal terror tactics. The SS was selective, requiring proof of Aryan ancestry, a commitment to the German nation, and total loyalty to Hitler. Members were also expected to have more children than the average German family. Himmler added esoteric rituals and pseudo-religious ceremonies, even replacing Christmas and Christian weddings with SS pagan rites. By World War II, the SS had multiple branches. The General SS handled racial policy, the Waffen-SS fought as an elite military force, and the SS Totenkopfverbände ran concentration and extermination camps. As the chief enforcer of Nazi crimes, including the Holocaust, the SS was directly responsible for mass murder, war crimes, mass surveillance, and the oppressive control of occupied Europe. The Gestapo, short for Geheime Staatspolizei, was Nazi Germany's secret police. It was created by Hermann Göring in 1933 by merging Prussian police forces. Göring was the future commander of the Air Force and the number 2 man in the Nazi Party. By 1934, Himmler's SS controlled both the security service SD and the Gestapo. By 1936, Himmler was named Chief of German Police and his deputy, Reinhard Heydrich, took charge of the Gestapo, turning it into a national agency with unchecked power after the SA was taken out. The Gestapo had full authority to investigate treason, espionage, sabotage, and opposition to the Nazi regime. A 1936 law placed it above judicial oversight, allowing it to imprison people under Schutzhaft, protective custody, detention without trial. Detainees were often forced to sign orders stating they had requested imprisonment. The agency was instrumental in rounding up Jews, ideological dissidents, and other targeted groups for deportation to concentration camps. Under the Night and Fog Decree, political prisoners in occupied Europe simply vanished. But despite its fearsome reputation, the Gestapo was relatively small and relied on German citizens to report each other, making it extremely effective. It played a major role in suppressing resistance movements, carrying out mass executions, and enforcing Nazi racial policies. After World War II, the Gestapo was declared a criminal organization at the Nuremberg trials, and several of its top leaders were executed. The Einsatzgruppen, meaning deployment groups or task forces, were the Nazi regime's mobile death squads responsible for mass shootings across German-occupied Europe during World War II. Before the war, the task forces had already been active, securing government buildings and arresting political opponents in Austria and Czechoslovakia. They also participated in Aktion T4, the Nazis' first mass murder program targeting the disabled. Operating under the SS and led by Reinhard Heydrich, they played a key role in systematically taking out Jews, Romani people, Soviet political officers, partisans, and members of Poland's intelligentsia, including Catholic priests. They worked hand in hand with the order police battalions and conducted massacres like Babi Yar and Rumbula, seeing tens of thousands murdered in just days. The Wehrmacht provided the logistical support. After the war, 24 officers were tried for war crimes with 14 sentenced to death, but many Einsatzgruppen members escaped justice. The Artaman League was a German agrarian ethno-nationalist movement that believed Germany's salvation lay in abandoning city life and returning to a racially pure rural existence. Founded in 1923, it was part of the broader Lebensreform movement, which dabbled in health, fitness, vegetarianism and naturism but took a hard turn into Nazi ideology. The League's blood and soil philosophy painted farmland as the key to racial purity and saw Eastern Europe as prime real estate for German settlers, preferably without the Slavs already living there. Members worked on farms in Saxony and East Prussia, doubling as an anti-Slav militia, while receiving lessons on racial purity, the superiority of the Nordic race, and the alleged degeneracy of urban life and Jews. As the political climate shifted, many Artamans drifted into Nazism. Even Heinrich Himmler was a member and later brought its ideas into SS policies, particularly the notion of the soldier peasant who would settle and defend newly conquered lands. By 1934, the Artaman League was absorbed into the Hitler Youth. The Hitler Youth was the official youth organization of the Nazi Party, founded in 1926 and expanding rapidly after the Nazis took power in 1933. What started as an organization for boys aged 14 to 18 soon grew into a massive machine, complete with a junior division for younger boys and a parallel girls group called Bund Deutscher Mädel. By 1936, it was the only legal youth organization in Germany, and by 1939, membership was mandatory, whether parents liked it or not. Schools pressured students into joining, and those who resisted were ridiculed, denied diplomas, or blocked from jobs. The program was structured like a military operation, drilling Nazi ideology into young minds with a heavy dose of racial propaganda. Members were trained to see Jews and Slavs as enemies and were encouraged to disrupt church activities and spy on religious groups. During World War II, Arthur Axmann transformed the Hitler Youth into an auxiliary force, and by 1944, teenage soldiers were thrown into battle, most notably at Normandy, where over 20,000 young recruits fought the Allies. As Germany's losses mounted, the Nazis recruited younger and younger members, drafting 12-year-olds for the final desperate defense of Berlin. When the war ended, the Hitler Youth was officially disbanded as part of denazification. Lebensborn, meaning Fount of Life, was an SS-initiated organization in Nazi Germany aimed at increasing the birth rate of children who met the regime's racial purity standards. Established by Heinrich Himmler in 1935, it provided welfare to mostly unmarried mothers, offered secret maternity homes to avoid social stigma, and facilitated adoptions by racially approved families, particularly those of SS members. The program later expanded into occupied countries like Norway, and many Lebensborn facilities operated in confiscated Jewish properties. Awards like the Cross of Honor of the German Mother encouraged high birth rates among Aryan women. During the Nuremberg trials, evidence revealed the large-scale kidnapping and forced Germanization of many ethnic Polish children as part of the program. The Thule Society started as a German nationalist study group but evolved into a secretive organization with deep ties to early Nazi ideology. Founded in 1917 by Walter Nauhaus, it was heavily influenced by occultism, racial theories, and the belief in an ancient Aryan homeland called Thule, supposedly located near Greenland or Iceland. Members were obsessed with proving Aryan superiority and were hostile to Jews and communists. The group became politically active, plotting against socialist leaders in Bavaria and even attempting a failed coup. In 1919, Thule members helped create the German Workers' Party, which later became the Nazi Party when Adolf Hitler joined. The Society also purchased a newspaper that eventually became the official Nazi publication, the Völkischer Beobachter. Many early Nazi leaders had ties to the Thule Society, making it a key ideological stepping stone. Ahnenerbe, short for Ancestral Heritage Research and Teaching Society, was founded by Heinrich Himmler in 1935 as an SS-affiliated research institute aimed at proving Nazi racial theories. Himmler was influenced by racial ethnographer Hans F.K. Günther. He claimed that Aryans had conquered much of Asia around 2000 BC and argued that Buddha was of Nordic Aryan descent. The Ahnenerbe scholars conducted archaeological, anthropological, and historical studies to establish the supposed superiority of the Aryan race, including a 1938 expedition to Tibet to investigate whether Aryans had once ruled Asia. They also planned missions to Bolivia, Iran, and Iceland, but as World War II progressed, their focus shifted to looting cultural artifacts in occupied territories. Later, they mapped holy ley lines, some kind of energy highways, to sacred Germanic sites like the Externsteine or Wewelsburg Castle. The Nazi government used Ahnenerbe findings to justify policies, including the Holocaust and claims of Aryan settlements in Eastern Europe to support territorial expansion. Post-World War II theories even claimed the Ahnenerbe Research Division pursued the mystical vril energy for supernatural powers or futuristic technology. As the war ended, members destroyed records to avoid persecution, but their ideas have since influenced neo-Nazi circles and pseudo-archaeological myths. The National Socialist Women's League, or NS-Frauenschaft, was the official Nazi women's organization formed in 1931 by merging various women's groups. Its main goal was to reinforce the Nazi ideal of women as homemakers and mothers, promoting traditional gender roles. Women were encouraged to focus on childcare, household duties, and supporting the party's agenda. One of its biggest impacts came through mother training courses, which reinforced Nazi parenting ideals. The organization also established children's groups to free up mothers for wartime labor. Beyond ideology, the NS-Frauenschaft played a practical role in daily life, promoting German-made goods, running classes for brides and schoolgirls, organizing war efforts like scrap collection and food distribution, and even allocating forced domestic labor from occupied territories to large families. The German Labor Front was one of the largest Nazi organizations with the purpose to control workers while eliminating independent trade unions. Founded in 1933, it absorbed the assets of the unions after the Sturmabteilung violently shut them down, with leaders arrested and funds seized. Collective bargaining was banned, strikes were outlawed, and labor trustees appointed by Hitler dictated contracts. This was a huge win for employers as the regime needed industry's cooperation for rearmament. Unlike traditional unions, the DAF included employers and professionals, branding itself as an organization for all creative Germans of brain and fist. Workers couldn't negotiate wages or switch jobs freely, but to keep them pacified, the DAF set up the Strength Through Joy program. Strength Through Joy, or Kraft durch Freude, was essentially a state-run leisure organization blending propaganda with recreation to keep workers loyal to the Nazi regime. Founded in 1933 as part of the German Labor Front, it organized everything from factory sports events to discounted concerts, art exhibitions, and even luxury cruises. The idea was to make middle-class leisure activities accessible to the masses, reinforcing the Nazi vision of a people's community while preventing anti-state behavior. By 1939, it had become the world's largest tourism operator, though the outbreak of war saw most projects, like the Prora holiday resort on the island of Rügen, cancelled. The KDF also entertained troops, even in concentration camps, and was portrayed as just as essential as the Wehrmacht in Nazi propaganda. The Reich Labor Service, or Reichsarbeitsdienst, was a massive paramilitary organization designed to reduce unemployment, militarize the workforce, and indoctrinate young Germans with Nazi ideology. In 1935, it became mandatory for men aged 18 to 25 lasting 6 months, while women were only required to join after the war began. Young men lived in camps working in agriculture, infrastructure, and settlement projects. While framed as national service, RAD training emphasized discipline, obedience, and physical labor, preparing men for military service. When the war broke out, female RAD members were assigned to agricultural and social work, while men were sent to the front lines to build roads, repair airstrips, and support the army. Some units were trained for anti-aircraft duties, and as the war progressed, RAD troops were increasingly thrown into direct combat, especially on the Eastern Front. By 1944, they were used as battlefield reinforcements, suffering heavy casualties, especially in battles like Arnhem.